The newspaper headlines, no augmented reality goggles needed there. Hello, Flo Filomeno. No goggles for you as you look through the papers.
I wish.
But a little bit of scandal. There's some focus on the former Budget Minister Jérôme Cahuzac. I think our viewers probably remember that name. He was in charge of cracking down on tax evasion here in France. He's now on trial, though, for allegations of tax fraud of his own. The trial kicking off in quite a colourful way as well.
That's right. Now, yesterday he had to explain to the judge just why he had opened his first bank account in Switzerland. That was in 1993, and his explanation raised a lot of eyebrows in the press. Check it out in L'Obs here. Essentially, he said he opened this bank account, so remember back in 1993 in Switzerland, to finance the political activity of Michel Rocard. Now, who is Michel Rocard? It's a former socialist prime minister who we've been talking about a lot recently because he died back in July. Now, a lot of papers agree with what Le Parisien says today. Essentially, Cahuzac has thrown Michel Rocard under the bus. It was a dramatic turn of events that sparked an audible shock and awe in the courtroom. According to many reports from what happened in there, the mood went from shock to disbelief to discomfort as well, because there were a lot of questions as to why Cahuzac had never mentioned Michel Rocard up until now, because he has been in the spotlight for quite some time. Well, Cahuzac said he didn't want to hurt Michel Rocard, who wasn't aware that all this was going on. And now that Michel Rocard is dead, well, his political legacy couldn't be hurt by these revelations.
As we were told in our media law sessions at journalism school, there you can't defame the dead, can you? This reaction has drawn quite a lot of reaction online.
That's right. The hashtag Blame It on Rocard was trending last night. I must admit there were some pretty hilarious tweets. This one, for instance, is by a fake Michel Platini, where he says, if the Qatar World Cup, or if Qatar was given the World Cup, it was to finance Rocard's candidacy. So essentially mixing all these things up. And another Twitter user said, Michel Rocard is the one who broke Soissons vase. Now, Soissons vase is this old legend. It dates from the year 486. So you can see Michel Rocard being blamed on something very old. It appears that a lot of Twitter users think you can't really blame the dead for these kind of things.
Indeed. Well, we're going to stick with legal news. Lots of juicy legal action going on at the moment. Prosecutors recommended that the former president, Nicolas Sarkozy, currently head of the opposition, that he should stand trial for allegations of fraud and false campaign accounting.
That's right. This is what's known as the Big Malion scandal here in France. It concerns the way his failed re-election bid was financed in 2012. You can see the front page of Le Parisien aujourd'hui en France. Pas sorti d'affaire. He's not out of the woods yet, because this legal hiccup raises a lot of questions, because Sarkozy, of course, wants to be re-elected in next year's presidential election. He's currently really on the campaign trail. So what is this going to do? Is this going to be a major hurdle for him? Is he going to be able to get over this hurdle? Well, Le Figaro reports about what Sarkozy's lawyers are saying, and they say that he's the victim of relentless legal bullying. This is clearly a political maneuver that's goal is to eliminate him 2 months before the primary for Les Républicains, which is scheduled for November. That being said, L'Obs and several other papers are reporting that Sarkozy isn't really set to go on trial anytime soon. This whole thing is likely to drag out for some time to come because of appeals and counter-appeals and everything.
The legal process is never quick or straightforward, is it? Well, you were mentioning there that Nicolas Sarkozy is going to be in that primary to try and secure the candidacy for the presidential election. We don't know exactly who else is going to be in that primary, but it looks like it might be men only.
That's right. Now, there's one woman who's hoping to run in this primary. Her name is Nathalie Kosciusko-Morizet. She's often just called NKM here in France. Now, she's struggling to get the support you need to be able to actually run in this primary. The deadline is 4 days away from now, and for now, she doesn't have the support she needs. You can see the front page of Libération today. Faut-il sauver NKM? Should we save NKM? And you can see her head has been photoshopped there on top of the bodies of many of the other male candidates in this election. Now, if she fails to run, as you said, this will be a men-only race, and this is problematic for Les Républicains because they already have a reputation for not applying France's gender equality laws. Because back in the year 2000, France passed a law forcing all parties to have equal numbers of men and women on party lists for elections, and Les Républicains often gets fined for not applying this law. That being said, Libé reminds readers that Les Républicains isn't the only party that has some work to do when it comes to gender equality. If you look at what's happening on the left, for instance, there's only one woman who's going to take part in their primary as well. And Libé actually wishes that France would, catch up with history in a way, at least with the rest of Northern Europe, that seems to be a little bit more equal when it comes to men and women in politics.
It'd be really interesting to find out why, wouldn't it? Women not being encouraged to take part, are they not interested? Is it to do with financing? It'd be really interesting to look into that more closely. Right now, though, we're going to look at someone who is in office, the Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, often quoted in the news. Today, he's writing the news.
That's right. He's written a piece in the Huffington Post. This actually was published yesterday afternoon. It's getting a lot of attention, though, so I thought I should show it to you today. Now, what he's doing here is actually responding to an article in the New York Times. The New York Times on Friday published an article on Muslim women in Europe. This, of course, in the wake of the whole Burkini scandal. It's not really a pretty picture, particularly for France. A lot of women quoted in this article say that they feel like their day-to-day life is a struggle. Now, Manuel Valls didn't like this article one bit, and he says that it paints a false and intolerable picture of what life as a Muslim woman is like in France. And so you can see this headline here. In France, women are free. So quite a rebuke there to the article.
All right. Interesting to hear from the Prime Minister himself. Thanks very much, Florence Villeneuve. I'll be back looking through the international press for us a bit more closely later on.